Your catering choice isn't about preference, it's the hidden infrastructure that determines whether your guests leave, transformed, or leave early. Most couples don't realize this until it's too late. They choose buffet because it feels relaxed, or plated because it looks elegant, or family style because it sounds warm. But they're not thinking about what those choices actually create. How long guests wait to eat, how quickly the dance floor opens, how much time you actually get to spend enjoying your night. The fear is real that your reception will feel off and you won't know why until everyone's already waiting in line for food. The energy's dead, and your first dance happens in a half-empty room. This decision shapes everything, but it's presented to you as a style preference, not the flow decision it actually is. By the end of this video, you'll stop asking, which catering style do I like more? And start asking the right question. What kind of experience do I want my guests to have? And how do I want my night to flow? That shift in lens will protect your timeline, your energy, and your ability to actually be present at your own wedding. The difference between a reception where guests are immersed and energized versus one where they're waiting, wandering, and checking their phones comes down to this decision. The difference between you dancing with your partner at 9 p.m. versus realizing at 10:30 p.m. that you haven't even opened the dance floor yet. That starts here with this decision. I've designed weddings where every detail feels beautiful. Florals, lighting, vows. But the catering flow killed the momentum. Guests waited 40 minutes for food. The couple barely danced. The night felt off. And that wasn't because the food was bad. It was because the wrong service style was chosen for the wrong reasons. The catering decision you think is about aesthetics is actually about infrastructure. Your parents chose their wedding menu based on what looked elegant. You need to choose based on what keeps 150 people from standing in line while your photographer loses the light. According to event flow research from the Event Leadership Institute, the average buffet service adds 35 to 50 minutes to a reception timeline compared to plated service. And most couples don't account for that when they're planning their evening. When couples come to me and say, we want a buffet because it feels more relaxed, I ask them, do you want your guests to feel relaxed, or do you want them to feel like they're waiting in a line at a cafeteria? Because those are two different experiences. Plated, buffet, and family style aren't just aesthetic choices, they're timeline architectures. Each one creates a completely different structure for how your night unfolds. Plated dinners feel elevated and controlled. Courses are served simultaneously. Speeches can be timed precisely. Evening has a rhythm, but that requires tight coordination, accurate meal selections in advance, and more staffing, which means higher costs and less flexibility. Buffets can offer variety and feel more casual, but they introduce flow challenges, long lines, uneven table release timing, and momentum loss. If not managed properly, buffets don't just slow down dinner, they slow down the entire reception. Family style sits in the middle. It creates a shared communal feeling. Warm, intentional, interactive, but it requires more table space, more rentals, and careful planning so food is distributed evenly. If one table runs out of a dish and another has leftovers, the experience feels unbalanced. You're not choosing between three equally good options. You're choosing between three different experiences, and the wrong choice won't reveal itself until your guests are already sitting down. The 40 minutes your guests spend waiting for food is 40 minutes you lose from your dance floor, your toasts, and your presence. Your reception has a fixed amount of energy. Every minute your guests spend in line is a minute you don't get back, and it shows up in your photos, your timeline, and how the night feels. A study from the National Association for Catering and Events found that guest engagement drops by 62% after 30 minutes of unstructured waiting time during a reception. The longer guests wait without a clear activity or service, the more likely they are to disengage, leave early, or miss key moments like toasts or first dances. Here's what most couples don't think about: how long their guests are going to be waiting to eat. And I don't just mean waiting for the food to be ready. I mean waiting in line, waiting for their table to be released, waiting for the people in front of them to decide between chicken and fish. When you choose a buffet, you're not just choosing a service style, you're choosing to add 35 to 50 minutes to your dinner service. That's 35 to 50 minutes where guests aren't dancing, aren't engaged in programming, aren't experiencing the intentional moments you designed. They are standing, waiting, checking their phones. And here's the part that breaks my heart every time. Couples don't realize this is happening until they see their timeline later and think, wait, why didn't we start dancing until 10 p.m.? The answer is always the same: dinner took too long. Energy is finite at a wedding. You have a window where guests are present, engaged, and emotionally invested. If you spend that window making them wait in line, you lose it. You don't get it back. I have seen this play out in real time. A couple chooses a buffet because it feels less formal to them, but they don't account for the fact that their 150-person guest list means at least 45 minutes of service time. By the time everyone's eaten, it's 9:30 p.m. They did their first dance at 9:45 p.m. The guests have already left in some cases. The dance floor never really fills up. The couple looks at me afterward and says, "It felt like the energy died." And they're right, it did. The time your guests spend waiting isn't neutral. It's active loss of energy, of engagement, of the experience you wanted to create. Plated dinners give you control, but only if you're willing to pay for the infrastructure that makes them work. Plated service is the only way to guarantee your reception stays on schedule, but it requires decisions, coordination, and staffing most couples don't expect or properly account for. Plated dinners are the gold standard for timeline control. Courses are served simultaneously to every table. You can time speeches, toasts, and transitions with precision. The evening has a clear rhythm and guests know what to expect. But here's what makes plated service work: tight coordination and advanced decisions. You need accurate meal counts. You need to collect dietary restrictions weeks in advance. You need enough staff to serve every table within a 10-minute window. If any of those pieces are missing, plated service becomes chaotic. Plated meals are also generally more expensive, not because the food costs more, but because the staffing and service requirements are higher. You're paying for servers to deliver each course, clear each plate, and move the evening forward with precision. That labor isn't optional. When plated service works, it's seamless. Guests sit down, food arrives, the evening flows. When it doesn't work, it's because couples underestimated the coordination required. And suddenly you have tables being served 20 minutes apart, or guests waiting for their entree while others are already finished. I designed a wedding where the couple chose plated service but didn't finalize their meal selections until a week before the event. The caterer had to guess on counts. Half the guests received the wrong entree. It wasn't a food problem, it was a coordination problem, and it could have been avoided. Plated service gives you control, but only if you're willing to make decisions early and invest in the staffing that makes it seamless. If you're indecisive or trying to save money on service, plated service will backfire. Buffets can offer variety and flexibility, but only if you understand the flow challenges they create and plan around them. A buffet at a 40-person wedding? Great. A buffet at a 150-person wedding? You just added 45 minutes at least to your reception and killed your dance floor before it started. Buffets feel approachable. They offer variety. They let guests choose what they want. And for small, intimate gatherings, say 40 to 50 people, they can work beautifully. But as soon as you scale past that, the math changes. Here's the reality. Every 25 to 30 guests adds roughly 10 to 12 minutes to your buffet service time. A 150-person wedding with a buffet means you're looking at 45 to 60 minutes of service minimum. And that's assuming your caterer is releasing tables strategically and you have enough buffet stations to keep lines moving. Most couples don't realize this because they are imagining their rehearsal dinner buffet, which had 30 people and took only 15 minutes. But a wedding buffet is a different animal. You're dealing with formal attire, seated guests who need to be released by table, and a timeline that doesn't have an extra hour of buffer built in, all other things considered. Buffets also introduce uneven pacing. Some guests eat quickly and are ready to move on. Others are still waiting in line. That creates a fragmented experience where half the room is engaged and half is still transitioning. It's hard to build momentum when your guests are out of sync. I've also seen buffets fail because of poor table release strategy. If you release all your tables at once, you create a traffic jam. If you release them too slowly, guests get frustrated. So there is a sweet spot, but it requires coordination and clear communication with your catering team, which most couples don't really think about until, unfortunately, the night of. I worked with a couple who insisted on a buffet for their 180-person wedding because they wanted variety. We released tables every 3 minutes, had 2 buffet stations, and it still took 50 minutes. By the time everyone was seated and eating, we had lost nearly an hour. The first dance didn't even happen until 10:15 p.m. Half the guests missed it because they had already left. Buffets aren't inherently bad. That is not what I am saying, but they do require math, strategy, and realistic expectations. So if your guest count is over 80 and you want a high energy reception with dancing, a buffet is going to work against you unless you have a very clear plan. Family style service creates the most intimate communal experience, but it's also the most logistically complex option. And most couples underestimate what it takes to execute well. Family style feels warm and intentional until one table runs out of food, another has too much, and your caterer is scrambling to rebalance mid-service. It is not plug and play. Family style is beautiful in theory and can be in practice. Platters of food arrive at each table, guests serve themselves and pass dishes around. It feels communal, warm, and interactive. Less transactional than plated, more intimate than buffet. But here's what makes family style work: precise portioning, strategic plating, and experienced service staff. You need to know exactly how much food to send to each table so that everyone gets enough, but you're not drowning tables in excess. That requires a caterer who understands family style service, and not every caterer does. Family style also requires more table space and more rentals. You're placing large platters, serving utensils, and shared dishes on every table. If your tables are already tight because of centerpieces, plate settings, and glassware, family style becomes a logistical puzzle. Guests end up with no room to eat because the table is covered in serving dishes. The other challenge, uneven distribution. If one table has 8 people and another has 10, and you're sending the same amount of food to both, someone's going to run out. I've seen tables where guests are passing around a near empty platter while the table next to them has leftovers. It creates an awkward, unbalanced experience at times that's hard to recover from mid-service. Family style also requires active service staff. Servers need to monitor tables, replenish dishes, clear empty platters, and make sure the flow stays smooth. If your staffing is lean or your caterer isn't experienced with family style, it falls apart quickly. I designed a wedding where the couple chose family style because they loved the idea of guests sharing a meal together, but their caterer didn't portion correctly, 3 tables ran out of the main course before everyone was served. We had to scramble to send out additional platters, which delayed the next course and threw off the entire timeline. It wasn't the couple's fault. It was a coordination failure, but it impacted the experience. Family style creates the most intentional communal feeling, but it requires the most behind the scenes coordination. If you love the idea, make sure your caterer has real experience with it. Your tables can handle the extra dishes and your staffing is robust enough to manage the service actively. The right catering choice isn't about which style you like. It's about what kind of experience you want your guests to have and how you want your night to flow. Stop asking, do I want plated or buffet? And start asking, do I want my guests eating by 7:30 p.m. or 9 p.m.? Because that's the real question. Here's the shift I want you to make. Stop thinking about catering as a style preference and start thinking about it as experience architecture. The question isn't which one feels more like me. The question is which one creates the experience I want my guests to have. Ask yourself, how important is timeline control to me? If you need your reception to stay on schedule, if you have a hard end time, or you want to make sure dancing starts by a certain hour, plated is your safest bet. If you're flexible and don't mind the evening stretching longer, buffet or family style might work. Ask yourself, how engaged do I want my guests to be during dinner? Plated service is passive. Guests sit, eat, and stay in their seats. Family style is interactive. Guests pass dishes, serve each other, and engage with their table. Buffet is fragmented. Some guests are eating, some are waiting, some are wandering. Ask yourself, what is my guest count and how much buffer time do I have in my timeline? If you have 150 plus guests and a tight timeline, buffet is going to create problems. If you have 60 guests and a relaxed schedule, buffet might work beautifully. The math matters. Ask yourself, what are my venue and catering limitations? Some venues don't allow buffets because of space constraints. Some caterers don't offer family style because they don't have the experience to execute it well. You need to know what's actually possible before you fall in love with an idea. Ask yourself, how much do I care about variety versus flow? Buffets offer the most variety, but they sacrifice flow. Plated offers the least variety, but it gives you the most control. Family style sits in the middle. Which trade-off matters more to you? The right answer isn't universal. It's contextual. And the only way to know what's right for your wedding is to ask the right questions. Questions about experience, flow, and the kind of night you want to create. Not just which one looks better in my head. Every catering choice comes with hidden trade-offs, and most couples don't realize what they've signed up for until the night of. You chose buffet to save money, but you didn't realize you'd lose an hour of reception time, miss golden hour photos, and have half your guests leave before the first dance. That's the trade-off no one mentioned. Here's what I wish more couples understood. Every catering decision comes with trade-offs, and those trade-offs don't show up when you're tasting food or looking at sample menus. They show up on your wedding day in real time when it's too late to change course. Plated trade-offs, you gain control and elegance, but you lose flexibility. If a guest changes their meal choice last minute, or if someone doesn't RSVP with dietary restrictions, your caterer is scrambling. You also need to collect meal selections in advance, which adds another task to your pre-wedding to-do list. Buffet trade-offs, you gain variety and perceived cost savings, but you lose time and momentum. Buffets stretch your timeline, create uneven guest engagement, and make it harder to transition into dancing or other programming. You're also more likely to have food waste because guests overserve themselves. Family style trade-offs, you gain intimacy and interaction, but you lose table space and require more rentals. You also need a caterer who knows how to portion correctly and staff who can actively manage service. If those pieces aren't in place, family style becomes chaotic. The other hidden trade-off most couples don't consider: how the catering choice affects photography. Buffet lines create visual clutter and take guests out of their seats during golden hour. Plated service keeps guests seated and engaged, which makes for better candid photos. Family style creates beautiful overhead shots of shared platters if your photographer knows how to capture them. I worked with a couple who chose buffet service to save about $2,000 on catering, and on paper, that decision made total sense. But what they didn't realize is how buffet service affects the flow of the evening. Because instead of a controlled plated dinner, you now have 100+ guests getting up, forming lines, sitting back down at different times, which naturally extends dinner by 30 to 45 minutes, at least. That shift didn't impact their cocktail hour or pre-ceremony photos, maybe. Those happened as planned. But where it did have an impact was everything that followed. Speeches started later, the timeline began to compress, and by the time we got to the open dancing and any additional photos they wanted, like night portraits or flash photography moments, there was no time or energy left to do it properly. So yes, they did save $2,000 on catering, but what they didn't anticipate was how that one decision would ripple through the rest of the night and limit the experience they had once the reception actually began. There's no perfect choice. There are only trade-offs. And the key is to go into your decision with your eyes open, knowing what you're gaining and what you're giving up, so that you don't look back later and wish someone had told you. You don't have to figure this out alone. If you're planning a wedding and you want someone who understands how every decision, from catering to timeline to flow, shapes the experience your guests are having, that's exactly what I do. I design weddings where nothing feels accidental and every choice is made with intention. If that sounds like what you need, visit alamodenevents.com and let's talk. Your catering choice isn't about which style you like more. It's about what kind of experience you want your guests to have and how you want your night to flow. Plated gives you control but requires coordination. Buffet offers variety but costs you time. Family style creates intimacy but demands precision. Every choice comes with trade-offs, and the key is to make your decision with your eyes open, not based on what looks good in your head.